Hey, welcome to GetMoreStrength.org. Today, we're going to chat about the tattletale, the one located right in your mouth. Our text for today is Matthew 12:33 through 37. I trust that at some point you'll open your Bible and read what God has to say to you there. Well, I guess all of us can remember the neighborhood tattletale. Not necessarily the most popular kid on the block. You know, they always took such great delight in exposing our naughty little deeds, the ones we tried to hide. Interestingly enough, your tongue, my tongue, plays the very same role in our lives. Your tongue is like the tattletale of your heart. Jesus told us that when in Matthew 12:34 he said, "Out of the overflow of the heart, a person speaks." In other words, what we say often tells on us, revealing the true dark attitudes of our hearts, those ones that we would rather not have anybody else know about. You know, how often have you said something and suddenly you realize that those words are out there and they're exposing something about you you don't want to have exposed? You know, you'd like to grab them and put them back in, but it's too late. They're out. My friends who practice medicine tell me that certain sicknesses sometimes produce terrible breath. And so it is with our sinful hearts. Paul vividly describes this dynamic in Romans 3:13 when speaking of sinners, he says, their throats are like open graves. What he is saying is that they vent the very smell of death. I recall the day when I spouted off to my kindergarten teacher. I can't remember what created the crisis, but I do remember telling my teacher to shut up. Believe it or not, I said it. I then promptly got up, left the room, and headed home. And as I walked down the block, I noticed that my mother was working in the backyard. Well, that stopped me dead in my tracks. Well, what would I tell her? My options were clear. I could face my mother, face the teacher, or walk alone into the big, cruel world. Well, I chose the least of the three evils and went back to school. My teacher met me at the door, took me by the arm, and marched me to the restroom. If I recall, it was the women's room, where she washed out my mouth with soap. It was a never-to-be-forgotten lesson. But to be honest, I needed far more than a mouth-washing. I needed a heart wash. My little 5-year-old rebellious spirit had shown up in my mouth. And if we aren't careful, the attitudes you and I have as adults will show up there as well. Things like anger, pride, fear, sensuality, and a host of other dark things in our hearts eventually show up in the words that we say. In essence, all talk is heart talk. So what are we to do? Let's groom our hearts to be deep with Jesus and controlled by the Spirit. And when that happens, your words will begin to show it. Neglect your heart spiritually, and your tongue will tattle on you every time.